What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks, and we back in the building. You feel me? It's True Talks, cause True Talks. All right, let's get straight right into it. And obviously, you already know if you haven't been paying attention, it's been definitely a whirlwind. In terms of just free agency in the NBA, it's been a lot of moves. There's been trades. There's been obviously signings and trade requests. Obviously, there's been a lot of things going on, and obviously the NBA world and the fan base, has been in a storm and has been in an uproar in the last week or so, couple of days, all of that, right? And I'm just gonna do my best to kind of just do sum it all into one in terms of what my thoughts are on the biggest kind of trades that's happened and signees that's happened, things that are they impactful in a positive way or are they detrimental, and it's like, why are they doing this, right? So if you haven't understood, I already did talk about the whole Kevin Durant trade fiasco. I already talked about that, how he demanded a trade request, the actual IQ behind that, where a lot of people aren't really assessing it from that perspective. And it's a new perspective, or a perspective that a lot of people haven't really just dove into. And, rightfully so, everybody are looking at this from an on the court basketball perspective, where they're obviously going to just flame and destroy KD because they are looking at this from a basketball on the court perspective and not from a business organization versus player perspective. So that's something that I highlighted in that, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out, click it and go look at it. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, besides that, obviously I talked about the trade request in depth over there. And right now I'm going to talk about just the certain trades that have happened where it's kind of like, is this a great? Is this bad? Does this shake the NBA a little bit? What does this do? Does this move the needle for the team in a positive direction, etc.? So, I'll go with the small crucial ones, but that are very impactful. I'm going to talk about before I talk about the main ones. One that's under the radar, that's definitely a great one, is PJ Tucker just signing. PJ Tucker signed a 3-year deal, 33 mil with the Sixers. That's definitely a great signee for the Sixers, an upgrade, especially now you basically got, I'm pretty sure someone else, I forgot who, but I'm pretty sure someone else also went there from Houston. Um I'm is it what's his name? I forgot who it is. But anyways, PJ Tucker went there, obviously he has a relationship with Harden where he played in Houston, and for the most part you had Thibault, and you had, who was there for? It was basically Thibault. It was they had Maxi, Harden, Tobias, and Thibault, I think for the most part came off the bench, but sometimes he started, and that was kind of like a weakness at the four, right? For the most part, and with Embiid as well at the five. So you want to have a 3 and D guy. Obviously, they had Danny Green as well there too, but you want to have a 3 and D guy. So when you have Maxi, James Harden, or James Harden, Maxi 1 and 2, whatever, you still have Tobias. Now you have PJ. Then you have Embiid. PJ Tucker, great defensive capabilities, but he also is a 3 and D guy, right? He has improved his 3-point shot, hit the corner three for the most part, does a lot of the little things, gets in, guards the best defender at the 4 or the 3, for the most part, gets in their grill, wreaks havoc. And then not only that, he's been hitting floaters, cutting at the right time, offensive rebounds. Like, he does all the little things, to a T. So when you look at it from that perspective, this is definitely an upgrade for the Sixers. And then just that camaraderie, that chemistry, with James Harden as well too. And James Harden, again, he hasn't re-signed fully. He obviously opted out. He declined his player option to so they have more money to kind of to just more money to room with, more flexibility, right? So he's probably going to sign back with them for a lesser deal, and that's obviously still, we haven't got the reports on that. That hasn't happened, but again, just PJ Tucker is just definitely just an improvement, a drastic improvement for the Sixers right away, and that's a steal because, again, it's even an addition by subtraction. You taking them away from the Bucks, taking them away from potentially, don't know what's going on with the Nets, but if he was to sign with the Nets, taking them away from the Heat, like, that's definitely an upgrade, right? Just by subtracting from another team. So that in itself is definitely, a positive thing for the Sixers, and Sixers fans should be happy because they definitely had some weaknesses defensively, and, he adds to that. So when you add that, that's a great addition for them. And again, another sleeper that's going under the radar is the Kevin Herter trade. Obviously, Kevin Herter was definitely a skilled shooter and a skilled scorer with the compiled with Trae Young. But you could see that the Hawks, especially, we'll talk about their bigger trade that happened, but you could see that they're trying to change the dynamics where everything is Trae Young in their offense, or it's like the Trae Young Luka offense where everything is Trae Young. He just has the ball handle, ball handle, ball handle. Everybody else will spot up, and then kind of they score off of the Trae Young dynamic. And you want to have multiple ball handlers. You want to have, multiple ball handlers, but then the other guys are more locked in as 3-and-D guys, right? Where Herter plays decent defense, but he's more so a offensive, just he's more so of an offensive threat more than a defensive threat, right? He's not just a 3-and-D guy. So you could see the blueprint for a majority of these teams moving forward is like you have 1, 2, 3, maybe ball handlers, scorers, skilled guys, and then the rest are like extreme above average 3-and-D guys. So then you have a hierarchy that's kind of instilled within the offensive system where these guys are just going to play the role, spot up, and they catch and shoot, right? And then they play defense, and they don't have to get, step backs and scores and ISOs. They don't have to get those type of situations. They could just spot up and they're okay, right? So that creates a hierarchy, and you're having your main guys have the ball and make the decisions in an every play basis, right? And that's the dynamic. You've seen that with, even just the Luka offense, right? You've seen that with the James Harden offense. You've seen that with a plethora of these offenses. You've seen that even with the Suns, where it's like Chris Paul and D Book, and then everybody else kind of eats dependent off of them. But you don't have a plethora of clash. It's the same thing even with the Celtics. Everything is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and everybody else 3-and-D and whatever, and you fit in where you fit in. So that's kind of the blueprint that you see a lot of these guys implement. But again, being on the defensive string and having that defensive capabilities with these guys that can shoot the three does wonders in this newer era. So when you look at it from that perspective, Kevin Herter being traded to the Sacramento Kings for Justin Holiday, definitely a 3-and-D specialist. And then Maurice Harkless, he lacks more on the shooting, but he's a defensive specialist, but his role is going to be a 3-and-D. So for the most part, you got two with length, wing, 3-and-D type of capability type of guys. Justin Holiday, who can shoot the lights out like Herter, but he's definitely has better defense, and that's going to create a hierarchy, especially when they made a big trade that we're going to talk about later. But this is something that's going under the radar that's just it's more so fleshing out, what we're going to do in terms of just our system, in terms of just the personnel and play style fit moving forward, especially when you have John Collins and stuff like that. So I like that for the Atlanta Hawks, even though I like Kevin Herter, but it's more so what you're going to get and what it more so solidifies in the grand scheme of things. So if you have to lose a skilled bucket getter in the process, it is what it is, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, I definitely like that, and that's going to go under the radar as well too. And those are the main ones that will go under the radar. But let's talk about the main big trades that kind of like, there's a lot of, signings and all of that type of stuff that happened, but we don't need to talk about those. Obviously, we could talk about those later down the line. But the main three big trade signees, 3-4 trade big signees. So we'll talk about the first big signee that kind of like, had the NBA kind of like, what are they doing? Is the Knicks signing Jalen Brunson on a 4-year, $104 million deal? And obviously, to the naked eye, it's kind of like, what are you doing, yo? Jalen Brunson, he's not an all-star. He's not this. Yes, he had 141-point game in the playoffs, but you can't overreact to that. The Knicks will always do some Knicks type of thing and all that type of stuff. And I'm like, y'all got this twisted. One, Jalen Brunson has solid defense, right? Jalen Brunson, they had tried the Kemba experiment. They had the Frank Ntilikina and what they tried to get the Dennis Smith Jr. They tried a lot of these things, obviously having Derrick Rose there as well too, right? They have a lot of these experiments that they tried there. They're obviously yearning and searching for a point guard, hence why they were all in and trying to get Fred VanVleet last year or whatever, 2 years, whatever. I'm pretty sure it was last year, trying to get VanVleet as well too. So, and again, it's a miniature point guard type of they're willing to give them the bag, but it's not necessarily paying for what the person is. It's paying for what they could be. Jalen Brunson has done damage and has been elite in the role that he's even been given alongside with Luka. Imagine that he's a guaranteed ball handling usage every play. He's bringing up the ball, making decisions type of point guard. He's definitely gonna have drastic amount of numbers. Like it's gonna change differently. You can't just look at the Brunson that existed and think that's the Brunson you're paying for. No, you're paying for how he's going to be. He's gonna get a whole lot of usage. He's gonna be more comfortable. He probably won't. It's the same thing like Van Vliet. You're not paying for the Van Vliet that was alongside with Kyle Lowry. You're paying for the Van Vliet when Lowry leaves. Now Van Vliet is gonna rise to a whole new level because of the usage and the more comfortability. He doesn't have to share time with the ball with this guy. It's more so like, okay, I can operate and I can be comfortable and I have the green light, and then boom, I just play free flowing offense, right? And that's what you're gonna get from the Jalen Brunson. The fact that he had 41 points once, remember that 41 points existed once Luka was out. When Luka came, obviously he struggled finding his rhythm and still had great games alongside with Luka that didn't exceed or reach the same potential as that 41-point game. But again, that 41-point game, if you look at his numbers without Luka, he was eating. And that's what you're going to see, or that's what the Knicks feel like they're going to see, and that's what they're paying for in this 4-year development. Get better and get better and get better. You're not having a Luka. Even the other guys that have a higher usage or that are star guys like Julius Randle, etc., they don't hold the ball like that. They could play off the ball. This guy could kind of dictate what's going on. So I'm not mad at that bag being thrown out. Like we seen Anthony Simons get a $100 million bag. Like guys who have elite skill and have potential to be an all-star, given the right situation, they're definitely going to get nothing less than 90, 95, 100 mil. Like in this newer, money, this new whole, just the money at hand and the money, this new market, just everything at hand. You can kind of see this is what this kind of tier of player dictates and demands. So once one guy gets that, it just rises the stock for the other guys in that kind of tier to get that same type of bag. Because if you don't, it could go to somewhere else that's willing to pay that amount of bag. Teams don't really dictate. Like one team doesn't really dictate what you could pay a certain player. The market and the other teams and just other players what they're signing kind of dictate what goes at hand. So I'm not too mad at that when you understand the context of everything. Like Jalen Brunson definitely is in that realm, right? Like I said, Anthony Simons, there's other guys as well too, right? Like even Nurkic is getting only 70 mil. Like there's other guys even with more at hand, but they're older, got less. So when you have a younger guy who showed that they can rise and rise and rise, you're definitely going to lock them in for that type of bag, because in the next year, that bag will even be more that you would have to pay. So lock them in now and, don't even look back. So I definitely am okay with that Jalen Brunson signee. Now let's go on to the next one, and this is the ones that created a more of a hoopla and kind of some went under the radar. But let's just talk about it because I'm not hearing the proper perspective on some of these. So again, let's start with the DeJounte Murray trade, where the Atlanta Hawks, they traded the Danilo Gallinari and multiple first-round picks to San Antonio for DeJounte Murray. And then Gallinari got bought out and signed with the Celtics. So that's even a great pickup for the Celtics. But 3 first-round picks and a future pick swap to the Spurs for DeJounte Murray. And you could see it's kind of like the Spurs. It's like, wow, this is all you gave up for DeJounte Murray. And it's like, dog, you got to understand, DeJounte Murray, he's only going to get better and he's elite. We get that. But the Spurs as a whole, they're not really going anywhere. They're going to be stagnant. This is the opportunity for them to actually rebuild, because the stock that you could kind of get or the trade value that you can kind of get might drop. Let's say he has a bad year. Now that everyone's locked into him and now he kind of plays a bit less than what he did last year. His value might drop. You got to capitalize on his all-star year. Again, other guys are coming back. Clay's there a full year. Like, he might not get an all-star if he's with the Spurs next year, especially if the Spurs play even worse and worse, right? As a team, his chance of being an all-star is even going to drop, where it looks to the naked eye, oh, you missed out. He's not even an all-star anymore. He's decreasing. No, we're not going to give up this much for him. Like, they capitalized on, you know, his breakout year. This was his breakout year. So you got to capitalize on it. That's why Popovich obviously gave the green light and was like, yo, you could trade him. I'm willing to do it. Not going to hold him hostage for these years. Let him go eat. I like him individually. I like him as a person. Let him go eat, maximize his prime years, or not his prime years, but his development, and, just go play while he has, while he's at free flowing and get into his basically best version of himself. Let him go eat. And then let us as an organization get these picks. And, we know we going, especially you want these picks. You want to, in these years that you're going to be bad or below average, this is the time where you want to have the picks so then you can actually get proper picks, as opposed to trading for a guy when you're kind of decent and the picks you get, you're not really going to get elite picks. It's going to be bottom tier picks. Or for the Spurs, granted, bottom tier picks wouldn't even matter because they know how to draft, but still, for this caliber player, you want to get elite picks. So just do it now while we're bad, while we're guaranteed going to get a top 10 whatever pick, more so. So for the most part, I can understand the thinking from the Spurs organization and Popovich's standpoint. But now let's assess this from the Hawks standpoint. Like, again, this will be elite if, and this is what I think is going to happen, because the Trae Young and the system that they have at play, this trade doesn't really become elite, because if Trae Young's still having the ball in his hand and he's still running the high PNR and shooting the deep threes, getting to the floater game and passing to catch and shoot guys, DeJounte Murray's not a catch and shoot player like that. He's a ball handler. So this is where it's like, why did you even trade for that? That doesn't even make sense, right? You need to trade for an elite version of a Klay Thompson who could do both, spot up like a Paul George type of player. Like, that's what you would trade for to compile with Trae Young, where Trae Young still ball handles. He can pass to a guy who's extreme at shooting. And then when Trae Young goes to the bench, he could ball handle and he could kill in the drop coverage, and he's just unlimited. He could do anything, a D-book type of player. Like, that's what you would do to accompany Trae Young. DeJounte Murray is more so limited offensively, but he's still elite offensively, if you get what I'm saying. He's like more so like when you like the Lucas, the Spencer Dinwiddies, like guys who have a bag, but they're not just gonna catch and shoot all the time, even though they can. It's more so they're gonna operate off of ISOs, they're gonna operate off pick and rolls and play make, but they're not gonna just catch and shoot, come off curl screens, come off pin downs, right? Come off flares. Like, they're not gonna come off the post, they're going to post. Like, they're not gonna operate to that kind of magnitude where they could play with anybody. It's unlimited ability. They need to have the ball in their hands, and you go spot up. So what I can kind of see, I can see that Trae Young and the Hawks are just getting tired of this Trae Young offense. They saw it in the playoffs. Like, great teams could pad that, where trap the PNR and force other guys to kind of go to work. And all year they've just been spotting up as catch and shoot guys. When you lock up Trae Young, trap his PNRs, aggressively guard him. Stuff like that, where, remember, the system is Trae Young PNR. I get the floater, or I get the midi, or I get the three-point line from deep. And then I throw alleys and I throw dimes to guys and catch and shoot. It's kind of the Luka offense. It's kind of the Harden offense. It's kind of even the LeBron offense. This is what the offense is, but Trae Young is very small that there's only so much he could do when you just trap him and force the ball out his hands. And that's what Miami did, and that's why he had a horrendous, first-round series. So when you look at it from that perspective, adding another ball handler where Trae Young could go off the ball and catch and shoot. Trae Young could, come off screens. He could move like Steph, because Steph doesn't just ball handle. He plays off the ball a lot of the times, where that could unlock Trae Young's game to a whole new level individually. And for a team-wise, you're not just going to trap DeJounte, because that doesn't make sense when you leave Trae Young open or you leave these other shooters open. It don't make sense. Make sure DeJounte have to beat you. And when you now do that, now DeJounte could go to work. He could definitely go to work. He could definitely kill in the midi. He can kill and operate in the paint. He could kill and shoot the three if you sag off. Like, now you add a whole new component to the Hawks offense where they're more unguardable in a sense. And if they play this way, where you let DeJounte ball handle, that's definitely going to be, I can envision where this trade could definitely make the Hawks become that much more dangerous. Like, they can really become a threat. For real. Like, you know what I mean? And then you still keep John Collins. You lost Kevin Huerter, like I mentioned before, but you still got John Collins. You still got Capella. You still got, Trae. Now you add DeJounte. You know what I mean? You still got now you add Justin Holiday. You got Maurice Harkless. Like you still got these other guys there. Like this could do real damage, right? And I like what I see from this. So now when Trey isn't on the court, you got a ball handler. Like they'll obviously play both at the same time or one or the other, similar to like Chris Paul and Devin Booker or Kawhi and PG, right? You always got one in at all times, Jalen and Jason, right? Same type of thing. So I see that if they play the way I think they're gonna play, it could work. If they play the way they've been playing with Trey Young ball handling and DeJounte go off the ball, this ain't gonna work. So it depends how they play it, but I'm leaning towards Trey being off the ball more. This could do wonders. This is definitely do wonders, and I'm excited to see that kind of duo. And I think that they're gonna be a problem, yo. I think they're gonna be a problem. So that's my take on that trade. Now let's go on to the next trade. This is a sleeper trade. Malcolm Brogdon. The Indiana Pacers send Malcolm Brogdon to the Boston Celtics for Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, a 2023 first-round pick, and they're also including Nick Stauskas and Malik Fitz and Jawan Morgan. Like, you're basically trading players that weren't in the rotation at all. Other one is Tice. But I think what they're going to do, which is what they should have probably been doing, is that they're going to go to Al Horford playing the 5 and Rob Williams playing the 5 off the bench. So they're going to interchange and not going to play together. Because that was a mistake when they faced the Golden State Warriors. They lacked playmaking when it came to the Boston Celtics. Not only that, having two bigs in at a time. Remember, they still have Grant Williams. So you have Grant Williams who could play the 4, right? When you face a big team, you still have the capability to play Horford and Rob Will to play the 4 and 5 at worst, but that's not ideal because having Rob Will at the 5 and Al Horford at the 4, you didn't have switchability with all this movement in terms of the Warriors. So Rob Will's instincts is to play the drop. Horford's instincts a lot of the times is to play the drop. Now you have two guys where you can just use their man to screen, and that's two guys playing the drop at all times for the most part for games 1 through 4. And that created a hole that they didn't need to be in. And then now game 5, certain times in transition, Rob Will one to the paint. That's a tongue twister. Rob will run to the paint in transition, and when he does that, he kind of just forgets about Draymond, and then Draymond is there setting screens on Marcus Smart with Steph Curry on transition. And like Rob Will's in the paint, instincts is to protect the paint. So like having two bigs in does create a defensive liability. That creates a defensive mismatch that the Celtics weren't able to recover or overcome. Now, you can kind of and then on top of that, you're having Marcus Smart ball handle. You're having Jaylen Brown, for the most part, doing a lot of ball handling. And Jason Tatum doing a lot of ball handles. Basically, them two doing a lot of ball handling where they get the pick to switch off an ISO, and they break down, kill the defender, attack the paint, and kick out the threes. At times it will work, but then when you now trap them or double them and reach on them, they're not poised with the ball, and they had a lot of turnovers, which now it's an uphill battle, and why they're losing these games and why they lost the finals. Games that they should have won, they lost because of turnovers. Like their defense for the most part, even though it was bad, they still contained for the most part. Overall, obviously in certain moments, I thought it was bad defense, and I thought if they played better defense, they could have still won. But even with that defense, if they secured the ball, didn't turn over the ball, they could have won the ring, and I know they're kicking themselves, which is why they made this trade ASAP. Malcolm Brogdon, who's a poised point guard, has done 50, 40, 90, can shoot the 3, can create in the midi, can floater, could Euro, could finish in the paint, you know what I mean? Can shoot the 3, like I said, can shot create when need be, has great defense, but then the ball handling, very poised, knowing who to go to, just knowing, picking poison. No, we're going to Tatum on the post. Let Tatum operate in the post instead of ball handling. Let Jalen operate in the post instead of ball handling, where Brogdon can now bring it up. Marcus Smart, go back to your defense and spotting up. And you can cook here and there when you get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Brogdon just makes everybody fit into their positions more so. The fact that they were going into an unnatural positions, Jaylen Brown doing way more ball handling than need be. Jason Tatum doing way more ball handling than need be. Marcus Smart doing way more ball handling than need be. Now and they still went to the finals and lost by 2 games. Now these guys will go more into their solidified elite roles where Jason Tatum could now go on the block, get it, and just focus on scoring. Obviously, when he passing the rock will happen now that his brain is even aware to more passing type of capabilities and skill that he's added. He's just more awareness offensively, so he's still gonna pass. But now the times he gets it, he has more room and more real estate to work with in terms of scoring. Malcolm Brogdon does the same thing for Jaylen Brown. Like now they can focus more so on scoring because Malcolm Brogdon is gonna set the table. That does wonders for this team, and that makes them even better than they were last year drastically. Even though they already were good last year, like this solidifies a lot of things. Just sometimes having a one guy make everybody else ease their roles definitely is another improvement, addition by subtraction, right? Type of thing. So Daniel Theis is becoming unplayable. So for the most part, again, they'll have Grant Williams will get more minutes, right? They'll have Grant Williams playing the 4, Tatum playing the 4, interchangeable. Horford and Rob will play the 5, and they just sub each other out. And you have a lot of, their starting lineup will probably be Brogdon, Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford. That's a great starting lineup. Then off the bench, you insert, Rob will to sub Horford out. Grant Williams to sub out Tatum or Brown. One of them is still in, right? And then when one gets subbed out, then Marcus Smart can go to the slide to the 1, right? Because he's still there, right? Or, it's just, you still have Pritchard. Like, you still have guys there, too. So I like this team and what they're building and how they're becoming an elite team, like 1 or 2 seed guaranteed in the East next year. So for the most part, I like that, and this is the great sleeper trade. I was shocked that they were able to pull this off for the most part. Like, this is eliteness. So it's what elite looks like. I like that trade definitely for the Celtics, man, because that's why they lost, man. Playmaking, turnovers, like, horrendo. So now let's look at the last one we're looking at. Oh, my goodness, man. Let's look at this one. This one right here, man. We're going to look at this one and dissect this one. This is the Rudy Gobert trade, and this is the one that a lot of people are saying is going to be elite for the Wolves. Again, you're giving up a lot of money. What is that, $400 million plus? $200 million each to each guy, Towns and Rudy Gobert. Now, again, you have your own twin towers. Yes, Rudy at the 5, Towns at the 4, but I'm going to dissect this because a lot of people aren't looking at it from this angle. They're not assessing what was successful for the Wolves last year and how you're drastically changing that. It's not as drastic in certain points, but it is drastic. And I'm a show y'all and go into that context. So understanding, let's look at this from this perspective. Rudy Gobert is elite rim protector, right? He has no bag offensively. Even if he has a mismatch, he can't even score on them. And I'm not going to just kill him because that's a niche in this NBA. You see the Tyson Chandlers, you see the Rudy Goberts, you see the DeAndre Jordans. Like, you've seen a lot of them, right? JaVale McGee operated like this, but JaVale McGee added at least a hook, and he added something there. But you see the Bismack Biyombos. Like, you've seen a lot of these type of centers where they're just lob threats Capellas, right? Even though Capella has been able to finish with even a mismatch. But for the most part, on an everyday basis, those centers operate this type of mold, this type of prototype, right? Where they're athletic, can rim protect, but they do have defensive mishaps. Some of them are elite at switchabilities and stuff like that, but they do have defensive mishaps where they're going to play the drop coverage for the most part. And then when they play the drop coverage, skilled scorers in this league, skilled three-point shooters in this league are going to abuse you. Now when you have to switch, they're going to abuse you on the one-on-one mismatch, right? Not only that, now you can't now when you have to, the other team goes small ball and you have to guard a guy who's, and they're playing a 5-0. You have to guard another shooter, like when Rudy Gobert had to guard Terrence Mann. They're going to abuse you because your just instincts is to roam to the paint and help, and you're leaving Terrence Mann wide open and he's splashy if you ask me. So when you look at it from that perspective, this is why the Wolves were elite last year, or they were good and they overachieved. Well, they went under the radar and they were getting a 7th seed. Like, they operated with Towns at the 5. They didn't have 2 bigs. They never played 2 bigs. Towns was at the 5, and who subbed out Towns was Naz Reid. Towns was playing the 5, similar to like if you let or made Horford play the 5, where they could shoot the 3. There are 3-level scorers, but obviously Towns is a way more better version of what Horford is. His 3-point shooting is way better. He has a bag. He can go to the post. Like, he's skilled, could ball handle. Like, he's a superstar, right? When you look at it from Towns. But a lot of why Towns was able to eat was the play style and the fit that they had at hand. Vanderbilt was their power forward. Vanderbilt did not shoot any three. He had no spacing for his life dependent on it. He can't shoot, period. But he was a wing. He's a 6'9", small forward, power forward, wing, athletic, mobile, wing. So his defense that he had did wonders for them, right? He could switch everything. He's not like he's a wing. Like, he's playing like KD as a wing. Like, he not like skill-wise offensively, no. We're talking about just mobile, like you could switch, you're switching, you could guard, ball handle, guard 1 through 4. Type of, like, that's what Vanderbilt was. And it let Towns be the 5. Now, Vanderbilt had no space, and he was playing in the dunker spot a lot of the times, roaming around and stuff like that. But Towns could shoot a 3, so it doesn't matter. But when Vanderbilt will come out the game, Towns is having, for the most part, Towns is having a big on him. So that even creates spacing for Edwards and stuff like that. But now when Vanderbilt comes out the game, they bring in who? McDaniels, who's another same wing length, 6'9", 6'8", wing type of capability, but he shoots. So now Towns had the whole paint, the whole real estate to operate with. If you go back and watch the footage, go look at their dynamic. Malik Beasley will come in. Vanderbilt will come in. McLaughlin will come in. Towns will still be at the 5 when Vanderbilt goes to the bench. And Edwards will be out the game and literally be McLaughlin, Malik Beasley, Taurean Prince, and McDaniels. Those are shooters, while Towns has the whole paint to operate. So that's why he went into the paint and posted up more when he was having those guys there. And that could still exist with Rudy Gobert, because when Rudy Gobert goes to the bench, Towns will have more real estate. So that won't really change that much. But when Vanderbilt was in the game with Towns, even though he was in the dunker spot, Towns was operating in the PNR. Towns was having still real estate to work with. It wasn't like Vanderbilt was just like a big sitting in the paint, where now the big is guarding him. So now that big is helping on Towns' buckets. You know what I'm saying? The big was guarding Towns. Sorry about that. The big was guarding Towns. Towns wasn't at the 4. So even though they had no spacing, it didn't really matter that much, because that's a power forward that's guarding Vanderbilt. So Towns, it's even if it's a guy helping you, it's a smaller guy. Granted, Jaren Jackson was at the 4, and he was still, you know what I mean? Towns could move. The way he could move, he could adjust and stuff like that and still finish, even with Jaren Jackson guarding him. Where now, if Towns is at the 4, let's say that's Jaren Jackson guarding him, and he beats Jaren Jackson, now that's Adams that's helping. That's an actual center helping, where now it's different now. It's different when a big is helping as a smaller guy who has length is helping. It's two different things, and that will affect Towns drastically, because Gobert, even how he moves in the dunker spot, he's not going to know how to move. He's a big man. He's like Capella, Gobert, Chandler, like McGee, like them in the dunker spot. They don't know how to move mobile around in the midi to the free throw line, to the elbow, to the short corner. Like, they don't know how to move, where Vanderbilt kind of knows how to move, and you can kind of just lose him in sight because he's a wing. So you're kind of like, okay, he's just there, whatever. Then he slides in the back there and gets a dunk, right? Stuff like that, where a bigger body like Gobert, you're not going to forget about him. And the center's guarding him too. So, like, it's just clogging more. The clogging is more dramatic in terms of just him being at the 5. And that's going to definitely clash with Towns. Even though Towns can shoot the 3 and it won't matter. What's going to happen now is to use Gobert a lot. You're going to, especially with D'Lo. Like, D'Lo kills in the PNR. Edwards as well too. Like, even though Edwards can ISO and even D'Lo can ISO, but you have to use Gobert, or else why did you pay to get him? Why the hell did you pay to get him if you're not going to use him? You have to use him. Him just being in the dunker spot the whole time makes no sense. So what's going to happen is now Towns' numbers is going to drop. Why? Because Towns is going to be like Horford, where I'm just going to have to just camp at the 3-point line, kind of like Porzingis when he was with Luka. I'm going to have to camp at the 3-point line, and I'm going to get lost in the shuffle at times. You're going to see Towns go multiple possessions, 5-minute quarters. You're going to see him go 5-minute stretches with not even a shot attempt. Because Gobert's running the actions. You're running the PNR. You're running this thing with Gobert. He gets a lob. He gets this. He gets that. And then Towns is just chilling at the 3-point line, giving spacing so you could do your shit. And that's why Horford at times will go away without touching the rock and without even having a point. Unless now a guy helped and rotated and now Towns is open. But for the most part, when Towns was there, he was involved in everything because he was at the 5. It's different. It's different dynamics. So different play style, different just positioning, different people who's guarding you, different cross matches. When you look at it from that perspective, Towns is definitely going to be affected. And I don't know if it's drastically or if it's just a little bit. That will, in due time will tell. But if I had to guess, I think it's going to be drastically when Gobert's in the game. When he's out the game, you're going to see Towns back to his normal self. But that's why that team was so difficult, because Towns was similar to Embiid. They're a 5, but they have the movement of a 4 over 3. And it makes them It makes them so different. They can pick pop, and then that centers out the paint. The other guys can kill. There's so many things that they do as a chain reaction that they open up just by their play style and by their skill set. So now you're cutting that off by having him at the 4 with Gobert there. So I didn't like this, especially what you're giving up. You're giving up Malik Beasley. You're giving up Beasley. You're giving up Patrick Beverly. You're giving up Kessler, and then Jared Vanderbilt as well. Those main 3 guys, they were heavy in the rotation. Beasley, Beverly, and Vanderbilt. You're giving that up for Gobert, who at times in the playoffs, when other teams go small, but the teams that are contenders can go small, he's going to be unplayable. Or if they don't go small, they got a center like Jokic who can pick and pop. So you're going to need Towns to guard him, because Gobert's just going to be in the paint, drop coverage. Jokic is going to kill. I don't like this move at all. I think it's a stupid move, to be honest. If I'm the organization for the Timberwolves, I'm gonna add on what I have. I'm gonna get more wings. I'm gonna add on what I have, because Naz Reid and Towns as a 5 interchangeable is beautiful. Especially because Naz Reid even can ball handle too, Euro punches, Euro dunks, stuff like that. He even could shoot a little bit. He just has to be given the green light to shoot more. But for the most part, those 2 guys at the 5 is great depth and great versatility, where now you have one guy who's so one-dimensional. I don't know. I just don't like the fit, because Naz Reid is still there as well too. So you're going to see Gobert is going to be unplayable at times, and it's you actually paid money for this guy just to not play him, especially when it matters. So I don't know. I don't like this trade, man. I don't like it at all. I don't know what the Timberwolves are doing. I hope they don't shoot themselves in the foot, because Vanderbilt was crucial, Pat Bev was crucial, and Malik Beasley was hella crucial. Come on now. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. I didn't like that at all. You lost 2 3-and-D guys and a great wing defender who got bare offensive rebounds. You lost. I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like that, man. I just don't like it. We'll see. Only time will tell, obviously, with all of these. But this is kind of my kind of just IQ. That's what I do on what has happened in terms of just the big name trades and free agent signings. And we still got, we're still waiting on some. We don't know what's going to happen with the KD trade, obviously. Kyrie as well, too. Then maybe they still stay because, I don't know. We'll talk about that. But for the most part, again, this is the more elite signings that I liked, ones that went under the radar, ones that I didn't like that most people did like. But again, I'm just not plugged in the matrix. So again, it's True Talks. It's True Talks. Share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here. There's no drought here. You feel me? I appreciate y'all. You already know. Spread the word. Share, like, and subscribe. Click that notification button so you know when I'm here. Because I'm here. You feel me? I appreciate y'all. You already know. And I'm out, man.